very beginning, it's always nerve-wracking, not knowing just where it's all going to go, but still having the adrenaline and the excitement of the event as a whole. We look forward to this one every year. It's a hometown, local fan favorite. So right now we're just kind of watching the bids. We're back here bidding ourselves, having a lot of fun, trying to bid against people and up those prices, because remember, it's all for the kids.
Yeah, the Concord Boys Club started back in 1944, actually on Halloween night, and it was started by the police department here in Concord.
The Concord Boys and Girls Club was organized in the early days of World War II by the Concord Police Department. A police officer named Addison Martin was given the task of organizing a club and finding a place for its location to give some help to some young men in the community whose energies were misdirected at the time and who were not yet old enough to enlist in the military services.
My name is Nancy Bartlett, and I became involved with the club in 1947 when my father was assigned to be the director of the Boys Club at that time.
So the real need kind of came up, and back then you can imagine that was cutting edge to have a police department do more of a social program like a after-school program.
Of course, back then girls were not allowed in the club. My dad's name was Jim Cirillo, and he actually was the seventh son of his parents, and he became a patrolman early on, and that's how he actually was assigned to the Boys Club. If I see people on the street, I'm still known as Jimmy's daughter. So he did leave a big legacy in this community as far as the tenure of the Boys Club.
So Jimmy, with a little tough love, had a major influence on my life in a lot of ways.
Supplementing the family in their guidance, not taking over what the family does, but supplement them. That is very, very important. Really, a boys' club has got to be different, and ours is different. They're different than a school. They're different than a recreation center and things like that, because of what we deal with the youngster and how we affect them.
My name is Tom, actually Charles Thomas Brown, but I go by Tom Brown. My first involvement was as not as a board member, but as a participant. You know, when I went to regular Concord schools, and when we had snow days, we would try to find something to do, and one of the things that we found very, very fun was to go to the Boys and Girls Club and knock on the door, and Hap Simpson or Jimmy Cirillo would be there and let us in, and we could play basketball for the day.
So they actually got together and they bought a building on Highland Street. It used to be the St. Timothy Church, and they converted it into the first building that the Boys Club had.
It was very early on, probably in the 50s and early 60s. My father knew Jimmy Cirillo very well, and very early on, my father got involved with donating to the club.
I'm John Simakowski, and they call me Simo. Most of the kids at the club, when I worked there as a kid, and future businesses as I got an adult, was all Simo. So from here on in, it's Simo, I guess. So in 1973, I was 10 years old, and we had our first TV auction. And this was totally all volunteer, run by the board of directors and the director, Hap Simpson at the time. On Pleasant Street, where a lot of the old timers would know where Star Hot Dog is, now Green Mountain Coffee and that whole building concept. It used to be Continental Cablevision. So we had our auction held in there. And then the following year, for some reason, I think they moved, we couldn't have it. So we had it upstairs at the Downtown Athletic Club.
And that's where we held the first, and probably a few years.
Basically, my participation was going out and soliciting the goods from different merchants and bringing it back.
The earliest memory is figuring out from one year to the next efficiencies and a better way to do it.
Kids like me would run the gifts, all the auction items, up and down the stairs. There'd be like 3 of us, and we delivered the stuff back then. So if you won a stuffed animal, that would get packed right up in a box or a bag, and when we got enough stuff in the van, we started driving around neighborhoods delivering all this, all the merchandise to people.
In 1973, the club became its own nonprofit. That's when they broke away from being part of the police department, and it was their own. It was the Boys Club of Concord, and then in 1983, that's when they first added girls to the name.
It was the first club in the Boys Club franchise to admit girls, and we then became the Concord Boys and Girls Club.
First club in the country to have girls make us Boys and Girls Club. And Boys and Girls Clubs, back then, Boys Clubs of America, were going to drop us because we put girls in our name. Now every club in the United States has Boys and Girls Club in the name. That's their new thing.
I became a board member in 1979, and the movement had already been started around the country that, we shouldn't have exclusive boys clubs, that it should be both. Girls didn't really have a place to go if they wanted to play basketball or sports or participate in other programs. And I think it's important for both boys and girls and men and women to have equal access to facilities.
I think that the change in name and change in admission policies was progressive. We had some really progressive women involved with the club. Nancy Bartlett comes to mind. Her father, Jim Cirillo, started the club with Bob Reno and some other prominent businessmen in the community, but they were quick to understand that girls also needed a place to go, and were therefore quick to make the change to the club to allow girls to come in.
We've got something to be really excited about. What has been talked about for a long, long time is finally going to become a reality. We have embarked on a capital campaign fund drive to raise money for a new Concord Boys and Girls Club.
We need about $1 million to build a new clubhouse.
This new location, which has been made available to us by the city, adjacent to Kimball Park, near the corner of Bradley and Pennacook Street, offers several advantages.
Well, the first thing that happened was we were on Highland Street, and we moved from there to where we are now. And my father-in-law, Jim Hayes, and Bob Reno, the head of one of the head partners of the Orr and Reno law firm, were the co-chairs of the event. And I remember it well. They said, "We're going to need about $1 million." And that was 30 some odd years ago. That was a lot of money. Fantastic. From the beginnings of where we were on Highland Street, which it served the purpose. It did a wonderful job, but to the new digs, and then even 10 or 15 years from then, they did it again and renovated it, and so what it is today is phenomenal.
was badly needed at that time. So I actually am proud of the fact that I was part of that to build a new building, and even though it had a lot of flaws, and probably did because later on we added to it and really revamped the building.
Girls Club will continue to provide structured, affordable programming for over 1,600 young people in Greater Concord in an environment that is nurturing, productive, and safe. We hope you will bid often and bid high. Your call will make a difference. Now let's join this year's hosts, Jim Rivers and Bob Tewksbury.
Thank you, Mike Murphy, and welcome back, everybody. We're back at the Concord Boys and Girls Club.
I believe I started getting involved with the TV auction around the mid-90s, and it brought a lot of fun, camaraderie, embarrassment, laughter.
I do remember people would do most anything in order to raise money for the boys and the girls who go to the club, including on air having their heads shaven, having their ties trimmed.
So I was involved in the TV auction for many years. We always, the police department, because we're involved with the club, we always do at least 2 hours of fundraising during the live auction. I was asked to be one of the auctioneers, and I'll be honest with you, I fell in love with it. It was fun.
No, this is That's specific. A power play. Chief, how much would you pay to not sing Jingle Bells?
We'll sing Jingle Bells. We'll sing Jingle Bells.
How much will they pay to have me sing it?
$50.
All right, ready, JT?
Join in, guys.
Ready to help us out.
Here we go, everybody.
Jingle bells, jingle bells, jingle all the way.
Oh, what fun it is to ride in a one-horse open sleigh.
Hey!
That's $50. Sergeant Lepard, thank you.
Thank you very much.
We just made 50. Thank you, Sergeant Lepard. All right.
So it really, it gives you that feeling of being part of, not just the Boys and Girls Club community, but the entire community as a whole.
Power of Boys and Girls Clubs is we're able to go into some of these different towns or different neighborhoods and provide service that meets the individual needs of the kids that we're providing service to. And that really does change, even though we're in kind of a small catchment area. The needs of the teenagers out in Hopkinton are different than some of those 6 to 12-year-olds up in the Heights. So some of the
the turning point in making it more of a larger program for us as the Concord Boys and Girls Club really was when we stepped out of the city boundaries and took on New Visions Coalition in Hopkinton. And then on the other side of town, we ended up working with the town of Allenstown, which again ended up resulting in a community partnership where we built a community center, a 10,000 square foot building that houses a senior center and a Boys and Girls Club. And it kind of quickly became obvious that there were going to be some potential needs in surrounding communities. And it just so happened that Hopkinton, New Hampshire was the first one. There was a New Visions Coalition, a teen center, that developed in that community. And at the time, the board said, of the New Visions Coalition approached us and said, we just can't keep going. Can you consider taking us on? And we did. And they became a Boys and Girls Club, ran as a teen center for many years, and now they run as an after-school program embedded in the elementary school in Hopkinton.
Yet there is still a segment of the population. If you added all the kids that go to these programs and then, deducted the kids that are able to go home and their mom or dad are still at home, there's still a lot of kids out there, we're confident, that still need a place to be able to go.
Quickly after that, we were approached by Allenstown.
My name is Sean Mulholland. I'm the city manager for the city of Lebanon. At the time, I was working for the Allenstown Police Department, and we were running our own programs, but not very successfully in Allenstown. We had a very, very high juvenile crime rate in the community, and we needed to find a partner who had the training and the experience, the organization to be able to achieve what we were failing at.
They had a great program running, and they approached us and said, can you take us over? Can you take this on? We don't want to see these programming go away. And it was just the right time, so we took that on, and eventually that evolved into what you have today.
And now that it's a regional, the Boys and Girls Club of Central New Hampshire, you have that regional organization that is able to provide high-quality services, which we simply could not do on the scale we were operating on at the time.
And that's there to this day. That was back in 2015. And it functions as a senior center on the bottom floor and as a Boys and Girls Club on the top floor. It's been a wonderful partnership. After that, as I say, it was kind of off to the races because it was literally seemed like the next town over. Everywhere we went, found out what was going on in their neighborhood town and said, can we do that here? So, I mean, it started from a tragedy. A young man named Robbie Mills, who I did get to meet his mother, was literally murdered for his bike.
For myself and my children, my son was just going to be entering the 8th grade in 1998, and one of his biggest concerns is he loved sports, but was low in academics. And he was concerned with going into the 8th grade and not having the ability to get extra help for school, any type of mentoring that he might need, the one-on-one, or places where they could go after school, because that whole group of children that he hung around with, they were all 14. And at that age, and if they don't have anything to do, that's where trouble begins. Robbie, we had gone to the races in Loudon. We spent a family weekend there, and which was something that we always took part in. And he had gone out to go for a swim. It was very hot in August. And after being at the track, he just wanted to go down to go into the lake. He had a bike that he had purchased. He had worked actually at Bonanza at that point to earn the money to get it. And he left the house to go for the swim, and at that point never came home. Robbie was found. The teens that had murdered him were arrested, and the following couple of years were spent doing the trial and all of that.
Not long after that, a bunch of very involved and concerned citizens decided that Laconia needed a safe place for kids. So it started as the Laconia Teen Center, and I believe went on for quite a while in that form.
Where we had started was at the Teen Center. At one point, it was parents and children together, and it went to the Teen Center on Union Ave. We moved to, I want to say, the church across the street at that point. I believe we had 3 moves before we actually ended up at the Main Street one now.
Most of it is before my time, but it was the Laconia Teen Center, and so therefore it focused on teens and the problems unique to teens and young adolescents. And that was a very important point in the life of this club. The Boys and Girls Club of the Lakes region was doing a job. It was serving the community, but it did not have the scale to be sustainable. The board was very positive about the merger. It was time. We certainly had our growing pains, and they provided the scale that we needed. The biggest concern was that we wanted to continue to be the Boys and Girls Club of the Lakes region and not some division of a club from 30 or 40 miles away. And that was handled very well by the Concord group. We still go by that name, which is very important because we belong, if not in a literal sense, to this community.
I think if he could see what was done, he would be pleased. I mean, it's absolutely amazing what has come from just his train of thought and what he would need to be able to go into the 8th grade and move forward with education.
There's still a kid inside, and they also have those qualities that, like, you need to be like a counselor and to take care of people.
I like to hang around with a few counselors: Sonia, Ashley, Elaine, my mom, Chris Eman. I think they're awesome.
So getting involved with the club when we first started, when I was a little bit younger, gave us a place to go after school, but it also really gave us a whole nother family.
Hi, my name is Kathy Kairos.
I'm Paul Provost.
I went to the first breakfast the club had over 10 years ago. I was invited by a colleague, Greg Raponi, and I was so impressed with the staff, with the mission of the club, that I wanted to become a donor and a supporter, but I also wanted to become a volunteer.
I first got involved with the club in 2007. I work for an organization, Merrimack County Savings Bank, that's had a long history of leaders being board members of the club.
I could see that there was a great need with these kids to have people that could mentor them and teach them and just be friends with them, that I thought I might have something to offer to some of these kids. Kathy's Kitchen was an idea I had when I first decided to volunteer with the club. I went to the club to look around and see what I could do. I've always loved to cook, and I saw there was a kitchen there that was not being used at all, so I came up with the idea of having Kathy's Kitchen, which would be a cooking class that I would go in once a week and teach the kids how to cook healthy foods. The great thing was, back then there were about 100 members, and they only had a minimal snack when they came in. So we would always cook enough for all the kids to have a snack. And the kids, they love cooking, but they especially love being able to go around the club and pass out whatever snacks that they had made.
So the first job I think a lot of people have at the auction is as basic as just ringing the bell or helping to, bring stuff from the backstage up to the area where the cameras are. And then I'd have various on-screen roles as an auctioneer, working the big board, and you just grow over time to understand the happy craziness of the TV auction.
My involvement with the TV auction started maybe 8 or 9 years ago. And when I first saw the auction, it was way back when we were doing it in the game room at the club, Bradley Street, before it was remodeled. And I remember going to the after meeting for the auction, even though I wasn't very involved, and telling everyone there, look, we could do much better. And everybody there was just ready to throw me out, especially Simo. And as time went on, I got involved. They became open to new ideas. They had lots of new ideas. And the auction has practically doubled in size and doubled in revenue, not because of me, but because of the new people and the new ideas we've gotten involved. And now Simo and I are best buds, and we're the co-chairmans of the auction now.
Marty Yoga is the former executive director of Lakes Region Child Care Services, and she was there for 15 years.
Lakes Region Child Care Services was established in 1967 in response to the growing knowledge that early programming was really important, and also there were a lot more women entering the workforce, so there was more need for child care. It was originally named Lakes Region Daycare and then subsequently renamed Lakes Region Child Care Services. I think some of the biggest successes are related to the quality. From the very beginning, LRCCS was committed to high-quality programming accessible to all families.
We had started to get into what is now known as early childhood, infants, toddlers, and preschoolers. At the time, we had set up some preschool classrooms, one in the Lakes region, one in Allenstown, and then one here in Concord.
In 2019, LRCCS merged with another field leader, the Boys and Girls Club of Central New Hampshire, bringing 50 years of experience and expertise in early childhood, along with skilled, dedicated staff and some board members.
But the strengths that we got from LRCCS was really that expertise in the realm of child care. Because if we didn't have that, it would have been very difficult for us to engage in some of the work that we've done in the past 4 years, especially during the pandemic. We have taken on 2 other child care centers since then and opened one up at Eastman Elementary School.
I think this merger was important because it was one of the first times that I can think of where a program like the Boys and Girls Club, which primarily was a school-age program, combined with folks who had expertise in early childhood. This was our primary business for all those years, and we brought with it, many years of experience and resources. So it set the stage for future growth of the club. One of the key pieces from my perspective is how much the club now participates in the workforce development, particularly for early childhood, which is incredibly important. Beginning of the pandemic, really taking on a huge project with the lab school at NHTI, and then continuing to have that at front of mind with the expansion, knowing that growing our own is always important, but that there's also the responsibility, if we can do it, to support the growth of other folks in the field.
Yeah, so we shut down for 2 days because Governor Sununu had just shut down all the schools. So your knee-jerk reaction in my chair is to, well, we should close too if it's too dangerous. I got a phone call from somebody at DHHS, and her name is Diane, and she's like, we'd like you to consider staying open. The governor has talked to us and said it's important for childcare to continue to be offered, particularly for emergency personnel, the fire, police, hospital. They need some place to go, and they're really concerned if all the child care centers are closed that it'll just paralyze the state's ability to be able to offer services. And I remember that call saying, okay, well, we're going to need some support here. And they're like, we are going to unleash all kinds of resources to you, and with financial resources as well. We're going to back you in this and help you as we navigate this unknown together.
So when I started, I was only here a few months, and we had our live auction, like traditional, like we're having now. And then, the pandemic hit, so we had to kind of turn the tables a little bit, and we had that online option, which is great because then we never had to skip a year. So we're thrilled that we had that, could keep this tradition going, and back for the 50th, we are live with some of the online hybrid option to kind of appease everyone if we can. So it's kind of a win-win.
My name is Kathy Furlong, and I am a board member at the Boys and Girls Club of Central New Hampshire. Before that, I was the board president at the Pennacook Community Center. The Pennacook Community Center, it's hard to describe it. It was a building, but it was also the hub of Pennacook. It was built in 1948 to 52. It took 4 years to build it. And one of the interesting things about the Pennacook Community Center is it changed with time. If you talk to people who have lived in Pennacook, they remember going to dances there, movies. There was volleyball, basketball. And then as time moved on, it became a child care center, a senior center, summer camp. Whatever the community needed, Pennacook Community Center was there. The PCC merger with the Boys and Girls Club, to me, was the most challenging thing I've ever done, but it was also the most rewarding. The fall of 21, the PCC board met, and we probably met almost every couple of days because we knew we had to make a decision. We either needed to close down or we needed to see about merging with somebody. On paper, we were in good shape. We had money, we were paying our bills, but our buildings were very, very old. The 2 houses that we used were from the 1900s and needed a lot of repairs. We just did not have that kind of money. Our biggest issue was we did not want the staff to be out of work, and we did not want families not to have childcare. And that was when Chris and all the staff that I dealt with, they explained it, we worked through it together, and it made the merger, it was so smooth going. And I have to say that Chris is the most welcoming and nicest person to talk to. He asked the questions, and I had the answers. So I think we started off on a good foot with that.
The room we're in now is going to be the future school-age program area for the Pennacook Community Center, and we're scheduled to be finished with this building in July of 2024, and hopefully have kids in it September.
Having PCC merge with Boys and Girls Club did a couple of things. One, it's going to have childcare back in the village of Pennacook. And PCC also takes the surrounding communities. So we had families from Canterbury and Salisbury and Boscawen. So it took a whole area of the group of the children. The thing that it did was it gave PCC a new life.
I was thinking about how the club has changed over the years, and I find two things that you might think are opposites that really combine to make the club special. One is it's a large organization right now, and it runs really effectively and efficiently. When you grow, you've got to make sure you run the organization correctly. But they've stayed incredibly committed to local. You think of the new places the club has gone, from Allenstown to Hopkinton, but now Lebanon, the North Country. Everybody in those communities wants a local feel. We're talking about education for their kids here. And the club has done such a great job of being effective, but also being local.
My hope for the future of the club and the movement is to continue to evolve and not to lose sight of why you're here. From the very beginning, it was a movement to service a need for disadvantaged youth.
It continues and in fact increases its involvement in the community, the young people. It's phenomenal.
A huge impact and a great resource. I mean, and the more people that know it's there, the more help we can get to keep it funded. I mean, we've done a Christmas auction here, we've done pool tournament, and even car washes to help fund the Boys and Girls Club, just so that we can keep it going, make it better, keep it growing because the Lakes region is growing, and there's going to be more kids that need a place to be.
The Boys and Girls Club continues its mission. That's building the social fabric. Some people call it social capital. I don't like that term, but the social fabric of our society. And the Boys and Girls Club is a key component of that. And moving into the Upper Valley just moves into a whole other area of our state that they're able to contribute and help build the people of tomorrow.
So when we're talking about what's up next for the future of the Boys and Girls Club, that's really what's most exciting. And really the answer is we're going to go to whatever town or city that calls us in and has a need. And that may mean building a building. It may mean renting out some space. It may mean partnering with a city to condoize a building. But there is one thing is for sure, is this organization is going to continue to expand its footprint in the places and the populations that need us the most. The two most recent examples are Berlin, New Hampshire, and Lebanon, the city of Lebanon, two distinct but different cities.
Where do you think it'll be 50 years from now?
Oh, wow. I don't know. Are you going to be with us there, Josh?
I'm pretty old at that point.
I think we have a legacy to pass on to other people, but I think we could tag team that and do that together.
I think we had a great 50th, and I'll see you at the 75th.
Next year. I know, and I've seen it, is the legacy is our children and the alumni of the club. We've got 20 alumni working for us currently out of 200 employees. So that's actually a very good percentage. So we follow up with them and we hear it from them every day. Many of them are in their early 30s. Some of them are in management positions with us already. But when I see them being productive, being caring citizens, that is the mission of the Boys and Girls Club. And to watch them be the mentors and the role models for the next generation, that makes this all worth it. That is the mission of the club, and that'll be our legacy that's going to live much longer than me and much longer than any of the buildings that we are putting up today. as important as those are, it's really the lasting legacy of the Boys and Girls Clubs of Central and now Northern New Hampshire.
Smart Moves is a program that teaches you about decisions and what is in life ahead of you, like what life's gonna be like.
We do a lot of role playing and giving them situations and finding out how they would react to them and how they'd respond to them.
They're very helpful. They keep a good eye on the children, and they have a lot of activities for them to do. I feel really safe leaving my children here.
For over 60 years, the Concord Boys and Girls Club has provided kids and teenagers with a safe, supportive, and fun place to call their own. The club offers homework assistance, art instruction, leadership and service clubs, life skills programming, sports leagues, a technology center, and lots of games to play.